We're getting to the end of the Unity Cup scenario, but before we move on to the third scenario, make a new track or track blazer, we still have 2 champions meeting left for the Unity Cup scenario. So in this video, I will go over my champions meeting guide for not 1, but 2 champions meeting for the upcoming Capricorn Cup and Aquarius Cup. If you're pulling for the upcoming banners and need more carats, look no farther than Loop Bar. Loop Bar is the most affordable and safest carats trading platform on the market. Buying carats from Loop Bar is 11% cheaper than the App Store, and if you join now, you can get a coupon for additional 8% off. The same amount of carats that cost $69.99 in the official store can be yours for just $59.47 on Loop Bar. Once purchased, your carats are instantly delivered to your account. Loop Bar is highly trusted service with 4.9 star rating on Trustpilot and over 30,000 positive reviews. Start saving on carats today by clicking the link in the description below. Let's first go over Capricorn Cup, which is our first spring champions meeting. The track condition is listed over here. Only thing notable here is that the track condition is soft, so your UMA's power stat will be decreased by 50. Also, this race course does not have any threshold. This is how the track looks like. It has a straight in the beginning and the 2 very sharp corners. And the final leg starts on a straight. So acceleration like Saiyan Sky's angling and skimming and Mijuro Ryan's Let's Pump Some Iron are not going to work on this track. Now let's go over the recommended stats for the Capricorn Cup. The most important stat is the power. On a track where there's not any reliable acceleration, having really high power really helps. Also, this track has 2 really sharp turns, and having a high power stat will help you fight for better precision and smooth turning. The width stat is also very important on this track because 60% of this track is a downhill. Width can give you a chance to increase your speed on a downhill. Stamina and guts are not very important on this track due to the low stamina requirement on the sprint track. At the moment, guts build is not that strong. I would only advise you on using guts build if you can also max your power and wisdom along with your gut stat. But this is probably not realistic for 99% of the player at the moment during the Unity Cup scenario. Because power stat plays such an important role on this race, while best way to raise power stat is through the power spark. If you do not have enough power sparks, I would even advise you on running power card, and don't be afraid of pressing on power training for the upcoming CM. What matters most is to get the power stat as high as possible, even if you ends up overstamming. Even with this long downhill segment, power is more important than width. That also means getting turf S is more important than getting sprint S. As you can see, more than 50% of the late race is spent on acceleration, so max speed might not be as important when compared to other tracks. Although I don't think runaway is going to be a very viable option. This is the stamina that you will need if there's more than 2 runaway and they spot struggle with each other. Now let's go over the recommended skills. Before we go over the acceleration, please note that there's 3 main types of acceleration that you can use on this champions meeting. First are reliable acceleration like Victoria for Planta and Give Mummy a Hug. These accelerations will always activate at the start of the last spurt as long as you meet the order requirement. These are the most reliable and the best source of acceleration. Then we have the effective acceleration like Highlander and Hands-On. These accelerations, while they trigger at the random time during the acceleration phase, they're 100% effective and always produce at least some sort of distance gain. Then we have the gambly acceleration like Turbo Sprint and Rushing Gale. While very strong when it triggers at the right time, these are very gambly to use. For example, Turbo Sprint and Rushing Gale can happen any point during the straight, and they're only effective when it triggers right out of the gate or when it triggers right at the start of the last spurt. But when it triggers at any other points, it will just be wasted skill points. These accelerations are the reason why this upcoming champions meeting is called an RNG fest. Proccing one of these accelerations right at the last spurt will give you more distance than proccing 3 different speed skills. I'm sure by now that everyone has experienced losing against opponents Narita Taishin who proc perfect no stopping me. On the Capricorn Cup, there's not just 1 but 3 different 0.4 gambly acceleration. And also because this track has a long downhill section, there's a thing called downhill mode which can give you increased target speed. And depending on your luck and how high your width stat is, you can go on and off. This is an example of good RNG, while this is an example of bad RNG. But while Sprint CM might feels like an RNG fest, and it might be tempting to try to gamble by stacking all the golden acceleration, I believe there is a better way to build your UMAs to win more consistently without gambling. Korean YouTuber JKTV has a table which lists the chance of the acceleration skills happening within the 50 meter at the start of the last spurt. As you can see, skills like on your left, heads on, or burning guts or power have around 25% chance to activate within the 50 meter of the start of the last spurt. Even unrestrained has 20% chance to activate within the 50 meters of the start of the last spurt. However, random accelerations like Turbo Sprint, Rushing Gale only has 6.25% for it to activate around the start of the last spurt. And other skills like Plan X and Perfect Prep only has 8.25% chance to activate within the 50 meter of the last spurt. As you can see, this means that acceleration like unrestrained on your left and heads-ons are more than 3 times more reliable than turbo sprint and rushing gale. That's why I would recommend you to not run too many of these gambler acceleration. Instead, maybe just get one or the white version of this skill and get these more reliable accelerations like heads-on and Highlander. And the rest of the skill point, I would recommend you to get more middle game speed skill so you can get into better position to trigger these reliable accelerations. Now let's go over the acceleration one by one, starting with the front runner. For the front runner, we have the groundwork and the taking the lead combo. Groundwork and taking the lead are a must get for the front runners. If you're not running this combo, there's really no reason for you to run front runners on this CM, because Pace Chaser Uma stand will overtake you even before the late race. And the key acceleration for the late race is the Contrapasa's unique Victoria per Plancha. Even though it's only 0.1 acceleration as an inherit, it's the most reliable acceleration for the front runner because it always activate on the start of late race as long as you're in the first or the second position. Highlander is also one of the best acceleration on this track. Even though hill is located 75 meters from the start of the late race, it's a very reliable acceleration. The hill is located right in the middle of the acceleration phase, so it has 100% effectiveness and could give you up to 1.5 length of distance. Victoria per Planta, while it's a very strong acceleration, it has very short duration when it's inherited. And usually, this skill alone is not strong enough to close out the run against the Pace Chaser. However, running Highlander allows you to extend the acceleration so you can reliably reach your top speed much faster. This crescendo of acceleration skills right next to each other is a key crucial strategy for the front runners on winning this race. The major downside of the skill is that it's really hard to get. There's not a guaranteed way for you to get the skill. Contrary to popular belief, it was regarded as a must-get skill for the high-level player in the KR server. Some Korean player even ran Right Shower Power Card trying to get the random hint for Highlander, but I wouldn't advise you to go that far. Best way to get it is through inheritance through spark farming. In my opinion, these 4 acceleration are a must-get for the front runners. If you're not willing to go this hard on running this combo, I would suggest you to not run front runners and just run Pace Chaser instead. Other good acceleration is Ignite Spirit Power, which also has 100% effectiveness and could give you up to 1.4 length of distance. Then we have Final Push or Unrestrained. Unrestrained is an acceleration that could happen at the random point on the final corner. That means it could happen any point on this corner 4. You probably remember using it on Scorpio Cup, hoping that it activates early around the start of the last spurt. On Capricorn Cup, you actually wanted to activate on the end of the corner 4, so the acceleration will be effective. It has about 20% effectiveness and could give you up to 3.2 length of distance. And if you're running more than one front runner on your team, you can also consider running Give Mummy a Hug on your front runners. So one of your front runner could get both Victoria per Plancha and Unrestrained, while the other one could run Victoria per Plancha and Give Mummy a Hug at the same time. But only do this if you're planning on running more than one front runners. And do not run front runners if you're not expect to get first and second position at the start of the last spurt. They also need to run Highlander, Groundwork and Taking the Lead combo, and Intimidate if you want to be strong as Pace Chaser on this upcoming CM. Hey, I said winning without gambling is possible, but I never said it was gonna be easy. And for alternate acceleration, we have the random straight acceleration. While they are very strong on this CM, I would advise you against running them for the front runners. Turbo Sprint and Rushing Gale are only strong when it activates right out of the gate or right at the start of the last spurt. For the front runners, because they're running Groundwork and Taking the Lead combo, these random straight acceleration skills are not as good because they already have plenty of excel at the start of the gate. Any more acceleration will start to get diluted and not as effective. So the only effective portion of this skill will be around the start of the last spurt. Remember this table from the Korean YouTuber? For front runner, instead of running Turbo Sprint or Rushing Gale, which only has 6.25% chance to proc within the 50 meter of the start of the last spurt, running Unrestrained is 3 times better with 20% chance. So I would suggest you to run Unrestrained instead. And maybe only consider running the white version of these skills if you have some skill points left over. But those skill points will be much more effective if you spend them on middle game speed skill instead. And here are other acceleration that you can consider. Usually they're really hard to get or not that reliable, and I would not recommend you to get these skills for the front runners. For the Pace Chaser, we have the reliable acceleration like Give Mummy a Hug and Victoria per Plancha. I recommend you to run both of these skills on your Pace Chaser. Then we have the expected acceleration like Heads On, Highlander, and Ignite Spirit Power. Heads On is one of the best skills that you can get for your Pace Chaser for the CM. And it's the reason why Pace Chaser is the strongest strategy for the CM. Other than that, there's many Pace Chasers that's already very strong on sprint. So if you have the hint for these effective acceleration, I will always recommend you to get them. And as for these random acceleration, you can maybe go for one gold version of the straight acceleration and maybe the white version of the other one. But I would now advise you to running both Turbo Sprint and Rushing Gale. From our testing, Groundwork seems to be not very effective for the Pace Chaser. I would recommend you to run Uma Stand instead. Uma Stand is really strong on Pace Chaser for this CM. Burning Spirit Guts is great, but it's hard to get and it's very expensive. And the other sorts of acceleration are unnecessary or too random for Pace Chaser, who already have so many good acceleration available for them. And then we have the late and the end. They're both very similar to each other, except late has on your left available and the end has straight away spurt available. available for them as acceleration. However, Sprint CM is already very heavily favored towards the front end strategies like front runners and pace chaser. So late end ends are going to have a very hard time on this CM. So unfortunately, they will have to rely on these random unreliable acceleration to have the best chance to overtake the pace chaser and the front runners. As for no stopping me, because the late race happens so far from the start of the final corner, Umas will be too spread out after the start of the final corner for the no stopping me to reliably trigger. From my testing, I noticed that no stopping me only trigger around 10% of the time for the late surger, and the chance for it to trigger right at the start of the last spurt is even lower than that. However, because late end ends are so weak on this CM, they're going to have to rely on these gambling acceleration to maybe win around 10% of their match. Then we have the rest shift, which activates on the final corner if you're in the first and the fifth position. So it could happen anytime around this point. If your late surger and the end closer take fifth place or above around this point of the last corner, then it could be effective acceleration. Some late surger with middle game speed skill like air group could potentially go for Game Mummy a Hug, and then there's other source of acceleration listed over here. Now let's go over the recommended skill, starting with the green skills. Best green skill that you can get is the wet condition, which gives you 40 or 60 power. Best way to get this skill is randomly through a skill hint from Smart Falcon or Shinko Windy, or randomly from a first chain event for Halloween Tamama Cross. On tier 2, we have Competitive Spirit, which give you power, but there's more than 3 other Umas running the same strategy as you. It's going to be a very good skill for the Pace Chaser, since we expect there to be a lot of them on the upcoming Champions meeting. And then we have Left-Handed and Winter Runner. On tier 3, we have Front to End Runner Savvy. Rest are mainly for Groundwork Trigger and so on. And as for the speed skill, on tier 0, we have Tail Held High, which is one of the best middle game speed skill with a cheap speed cost. And we have Uma Stand. Uma Stand is extremely effective on this CM, especially for the Pace Chaser. And from my testing, having Uma Stand or not is what going to differentiate your Pace Chaser from your opponents. It helps them to get into better position in the early game, pushing them up ahead to even where the front runners are. Uma Stand is so strong that I would even recommend you to borrow a King Halo power card so you can get guaranteed Uma Stand from her chain event. It's also a very strong power card that will help you reach high power stat. She gives huge amount of power through her training events. However, her other skills, including the Ghost skill, are not that good. On tier 1, we have Playtime is Over and Sprint Corner. Unlike on other Champions meeting, the corner skills and the straightaway skills are in different tiers. And the reason is the straight skill has a chance to become wasted when they activate during their acceleration portion on the opening leg or on the final leg. But corner skills are going to be extremely effective on this CM. They are less likely to whip and have a chance for speed carryover when it triggers right before the last spurt. So skills like Sprint Corner, Professor Curvature, and Strategy Corners are going to be must get. I would even suggest you to get Double Circle of the corner skill over the straightaway skills for this CM. And on tier 2, we also have Ignite Spirit Speed. It's more reliable than straight skill on the CM. While expensive, I also found Ramp Up or It's On to be pretty strong on this CM. And it activates consistently on the Pace Chaser. Get Closer or Blinded Flash is a late game speed skill that only activates if you're 6th place or below. Usually, if you're at 6th place or below at the late race, you're probably going to lose even if you proc this skill. Homestretch Haste or Embody on Mind is too random and can activate right before you cross the finish line. On tier 5, we have Huge Lead. I would like to warn you to never get the skill. For it to activate, you need to be in first place and be in the lead with at least 3 lengths behind the second place. This condition is really hard to achieve even for the runaway on this short track. And for the front runners, we have the Front Runner Corner, Fast Pace or Escape Artist, and Leader's Pride. Escape Artist is extremely strong on this CM that I would even suggest you running Daikaku Helios power card. I would probably only recommend this for Silent Shizuka, who has built-in Unrestrained on her kit. For every other frontrunners, it's probably better for them to borrow the Silent Shizuka speed card to get Unrestrained instead. And Daikaku Helios also has a skill point bonus, which is really nice during Unity Cup scenario where we're really hungry for skill points. Same thing for Silent Shizuka speed card. And Dodging Danger plus Prudent Positioning or Ignited Spirit Wit is a very strong combo on this CM. And if you can get all 3 groundwork, taking the lead, and this combo together, you're highly likely to be in the first position at the start of the last spurt. But please be aware that you must get them together as a combo. Dodging Danger plus Prudent Positioning together with Ignite Spirit Wit or Dodging Danger plus Ignite Spirit Wit. You can get all 3 of them together if you want. But please do not get Dodging Danger by itself. You will actually lose distance if you do that. If you have a hint for both, Ignite Spirit Wit has a slight edge over Prudent Positioning, but you can choose to get the cheaper one. And please do not get the gold version of the skill. It's a waste of a skill point and it's actually worse than the base version. And on tier 2, we have Front Runner Straightaway. On tier 1 for the Pace Chaser, we have the Pace Chaser Corner. On tier 2, we have the Pace Chaser Straightaway and Prepare to Pass or Speed Star. Speed Star, while expensive, it has a chance to do a speed carryover. For the Lake Surger, on tier 1, we have the Lake Surger Corner and Outer Swell, Rising Dragon. Rising Dragon is like a Speed Star for Lake Surger, but just better with the longer duration. But you do need to overtake someone. And on tier 2, we have the Lake Surger Straightaway and Position Filter or Fast and Furious. This one just has the same base cost as our Rising Dragon, but has a shorter duration. And on tier 5, we have 1.5 million or 15 million CC. pricey, please do not get this skill on your late stager. There's only a single hill that's located on this track, and it's located during the acceleration phase, so it would be totally wasted. At this point of time, we do not have enough acceleration for this skill to be effective. And for the end closer, on tier 1, we have the end closer corner and Daring Strike, which is the gold version of early start that you can get through the Enmire Vega Carat card, which just came out. This is an extremely strong skill with 4-second duration. It's like a mini gold ship unique that you can run on any end closer Umas. And this is a must-get skill for the end closer if they want to be competitive on the Capricorn Cup. And do not just get the white version of this skill, early start, which is only a 0.05 target speed increase, basically useless. You must get the gold version of this skill for it to be effective. And on tier 2, we have the end closer straightaway, and on tier 5, we have the Masterful Gambit. This skill is just not that good until the 2nd anniversary buff. And for the debuff, on tier 1, we have Intimidate. Intimidate is an extremely strong skill for the front runners. It is a debuff of 0.2 speed for all opponents' Umas behind them. For the maximum effect, I'll recommend to run at least 2 Intimidate on your front runners. It's even a strong skill for your Page Chaser. Debuff skills like Intimidate might seem like a waste of skill points, but they're actually really strong skills. By triggering this skill, basically you're canceling out on speed skill of all your opponent's Umas, and it really helps you keep your lead. You can get Intimidate by randomly through hint through the Sakura Bakshino speed card, or randomly through Spirit Explosion. If you have distance aptitude A on sprint at the start of the career, you can get it randomly from Spirit Explosion pretty often, and that's because there's not many sprint skills that we have in the game at the moment. And on tier 2, we have Hesitant Page Chaser and Intense Gate, which are debuff skills that are targeted towards your opponent's Page Chaser. And on tier 3, we have the Hesitant debuff for the other strategies, which are not going to be as strong. Now let's go over the recommended Umas. On the top, we have El Contrapasa and Mummy Creek. They both have 0.3 base acceleration as their original unique. However, El Contrapasa has an aptitude F for sprint, and Mummy Creek has aptitude G for sprint. So they will need at least 10 sprint spark to bring their sprint aptitude to B or C, and trigger sparks during the inheritance to bring it all the way up to A or S. With the 0.3 acceleration, they're basically like Saiyan Sky or a sprint CM. And similarly to Saiyan Sky, their middle game is pretty weak. Their gold skills are useless for this CM, or kind of redundant, since everyone can get Professor Curvature through Kita-san. Sakura Bakshino and Current-chan are both bearing strong Pace Chaser that do not have many A aptitudes. So if you trigger Spirit Explosion, you're likely to get very good sprint skills or pace skills such as Head On and Sprint Corner. And they're unique while they're not very reliable and only trigger around 25% of the time. But if they do trigger it, they can be extremely strong. Sakura Bakshino also has Turbo Sprint built into her kit, so you can borrow something other than Bakushin's speed card. And Current-chan is extremely strong with her growth rate on 10% on speed and 20% on power. On this sprint CM, any Umas with high power stat bonuses are extremely good. Current-chan also has Intimidate built into her kit, but I would now suggest you to upgrade it into the gold version since it only gives you 0.05 additional speed debuff for 170 skill points. She also has a secret event which gives her +2 hint for the sprinting gear, which is the white version of Turbo Sprint. Air Group is extremely strong Uma for the free-to-play. Since she has a C aptitude for sprint, it's really easy to convert her into sprint Umas. And her unique is a middle game speed skill that could potentially give you speed carryover. Having a middle game speed skill as a unique is a big plus against the other Pace Chaser. Her unique is very strong that you can even run her as a late surger and still be able to trigger Mummy Creek's unique as a late surger. And for the front runners, we have Smart Falcon and Summer Maruzensky. Smart Falcon is really easy to convert her to Sprint A, and she has Turf E, which can easily be converted to Turf A. Having more Turf Spark is actually good because it gives you better chance for you to get Turf S. And her growth rate is very strong with 20% on speed and 10% on power. And her unique, if she's the sole front runners and are able to keep more than 1 length difference between her and the second place on the initial straight, it has a potential to trigger on the start of the late race for 0.3 excel. But this will only work if she's the only front runner and she has the groundwork plus taking the lead combo. And even then, sometimes the Pace Chaser might come too close to her, making her trigger her unique on the first straight. And as for the other front runner, we have Summer Maruzensky. Similar to Smart Falcon, it's extremely easy to convert her into a sprint Uma. And if you want, you can even convert her into a Pace Chaser. Her unique is a middle game speed skill and will help you guarantee first position at the start of the last spurt. Her major downside is she needs to waste skill points on a recovery skill, which is otherwise useless on Sprint CM. However, similar to other Champions meeting, Capricorn Cup Final overlaps with the Valentine Mihono Bourbon banner. And Valentine Mihono Bourbon's unique, when inherited, is actually a decent middle game speed skill, which also has a built-in stamina recovery. So if you use Valentine Mihono Bourbon as a parent for Summer Maruzensky, it could act as a middle game speed skill, plus a trigger for her unique. And Mihono Bourbon also has the highest affinity with Maruzensky, which is a big plus. So other than Smart Falcon, I believe the strongest front runner is going to be Summer Maruzensky with Valentine Mihono Bourbon's unique. I forgot to mention that OG Oguri is also going to be very strong on this CM, plus Oguri. As for the dark horses, or Dark Umas. We have Silent Shizuka, not as a runaway, but as a normal frontrunner. Unfortunately, runaway strategy is just not strong on this Sprint CM. But Silent Shizuka herself is very great frontrunner for this upcoming CM. She has a D aptitude on Sprint, so it's really easy to convert her into Sprint A. Her unique, which is a middle game speed skill, as long as she's able to keep the lead in the second half of the race. While expensive, she has built-in concentration and unrestrained, which is one of the better acceleration on this track for the frontrunner. Having unrestrained available on her kit allows her to borrow other better cards, such as Daikaku Helios power card or even Kanefuku Kitaru speed card. And then we have Hishi Akebono. In terms of a power level, she actually belongs in the recommended section. Her unique is a really strong target speed increase plus an acceleration. However, it has a unique condition which requires her stamina to be at most 70%. So if you give her too much stamina, it's quite possible that her unique might not trigger at all. So please be careful with that. Valentine Mihono Bourbon comes out 2 days before the final, but she's going to be a strong frontrunner. With C aptitude on Sprint, it's really easy to compare her for the Sprint CM. She has a strong middle game speed unique. She has built-in escape artist groundwork and concentration built into her kit. Unfortunately, you won't be able to get taking the lead on Valentine Mihono Bourbon, but you can get a free hint for early lead through her training event. Fine Motion, in my opinion, is going to be one of the strongest UMA for the CM if you build her correctly. She has aptitude on Sprint, so it's definitely not easy to build her. However, she has a perfect stat bonus with 15% on power and 15% on wit. And her unique is a middle game speed skill. That's much more reliable than Sakura Bakshino or Current-chan's unique. She has built-in speed star into her kit, so you don't need to worry about Fine Motion Agemasen event. And she can get a guaranteed hint for head-on by winning Arima Kinen on senior year. This is extremely easy to do, even with 300 stamina. Rice Shower is also a fun UMA that you can use. Her major benefit is that she has built-in Highlander into her kit, and her aptitude for Sprint is E. So it's pretty simple to convert her into Sprint 8 without relying on inheritance RNG. Her major downside is that for one of her objectives, she needs to get first place on Tenosho Spring, which is a 3,200 meters long race. So you probably need to run Riko in your deck if you're planning on using Rice Shower. And even if you don't use Rice Shower as your ace, she will be one of the best UMA to farm Highlander Spark as a parents or grandparents. Similarly, Kawakami Princess can also get a hint for Highlander by getting first place on Japanese Oak Race. And she has a Rising Dragon built into her kit, which is tier 1 B skill for the late surger. Narita Taishin will probably be only viable end closer on Capricorn Cup, and that's because, of course, due to her being the only end closer with access to encroaching shadow. If you're planning on running end closer, make sure to borrow Amara Vega power card to give them Daring Strike, or at least a small chance of winning. It and end closer unfortunately are not going to be very strong on this CM, but that does not stop you from gambling with your Oshi with these gambling acceleration. For the recommended team cup, we have the triple Pace Chaser. Pace Chaser is undoubtedly the strongest strategy for the upcoming CM. We're mainly being in the best position for the two most reliable unique, Victoria per Plancha and Give Mommy a Hug, and having access to effective acceleration skills such as head-on. Having strong Pace Chaser with Uma Stand and plenty of middle game speed skill will help them get into better position to trigger Victoria per Plancha plus Give Mommy a Hug. Other team comp include on front plus 2 pace. Smart Funkin is undoubtedly the best pick for the solo front, which could potentially allow Smart Funkin to trigger her unique at the start of the last spurt. 2 front plus 1 pace or triple front team comp, in my opinion, are also going to be pretty strong on the upcoming CM if you build your front runner correctly. They'll be able to take the top spot at the start of the last spurt, stops your opponents from triggering Victoria per Plancha and Give Mommy a Hug. And even if they take Victoria per Plancha plus Give Mommy a Hug combo away from Pace Chaser, there's still a chance for them to get caught up by the Pace Chaser if they don't have additional acceleration from Unrestrained and Highlander. They're going to be extremely hard to build and will need a lot of investment, but if you build them correctly, you'll be able to best control the pace of the lobby and remove a lot of the RNG involved on a sprint CM. And running multiple front and pace will also help each other by dueling each other at the final straight. And finally, you can also just run your Oshi team, and hopefully one of them hit their gamble at the right spot. This was actually a team comp I was planning on running, but then I found it to be too difficult and gave up. So this is probably the team that I'm going to run on the actual CM. Front Summer Maruzensky with Mihono Bourbon's unique, Unrestrained, and Highlander. Front Daiwa Scarlet with Victoria per Plancha plus Give Mommy a Hug and Highlander and Pace Fine Motion. But there is a good chance that I might give up on this team comp and run something easy like Current Gen instead. Now let's go over the Aquarius Cup. It's basically a combination of 2 champions meeting that we previously had. Cancer Cup, which was our 3rd champions meeting, plus Capricorn Cup, which is the other champions meeting that we talked about on this video. You'll be seeing a lot of similar acceleration that you've seen from Capricorn Cup on the Aquarius Cup plus Alpha. So the roster UMAs that we will see on this champions meeting will be a little bit different, and the amount of potential UMA that you can use on this champions meeting will be restricted. Sad day for Oshi player with UMAs with 30. The track itself is Tokyo 1600 meter, which is the same race course that we have for Cancer Cup, but the key difference is this is our first dirt champions meeting. On a dirt track, your power will be decreased by 100 on any turn condition aside from good. The final leg starts on the corner and is quickly followed by a straight, so majority of the acceleration that we're used to will work on this track, except for Dober's unique. Now let's go over the recommended stats. These are the required stamina based on the emulator. The bonus stat for this track is on speed and stam, same as Cancer Cup. Every 300 speed and stamina will give you a speed boost on this track. These stam requirement can be lowered if you have higher guts. However, I do recommend you to still go over at least 578 stamina, so you can get the speed bonus at great mood. Power and wit are both going to play a big role on this track, so try to get them high as possible. Also, Miles S will be a must on this track. Tokyo track has a long final straight. If you don't have Miles S, there's high likely that you'll be overtaken by your opponent's Uma who has Miles S. Runaway Shizuka will be back on menu again. This is the required stamina if she spot struggle with the other Shizuka. Unfortunately, the Aquarius Cup Final will coincide with the release of the third scenario, Track Blazer. And if you want to redo your ace for the final, this would be the recommended step for the new scenario. Basically, you want max speed, power, and wit, and also raise your guts as high as possible. Finally, Guts Build will be on the table. This is a potential deck that you can run on the new scenario. If you don't have some of these SSR card MLB, you can also replace them with free-to-play support card with higher race bonus. If you do pull on Narita Top Rope banner early before the free pull, you can also slot them into your deck. Probably once we get closer to the scenario, me or other content creator will make more video regarding the new scenario. Now let's go over the acceleration. For the front runner, groundwork, angling and scheming, Victoria Planta, and taking the lead are must get. And I would highly recommend you to use Silent Shizuka card to get Unrestrained. Unrestrained is very effective and very strong on this track. Front runner without Unrestrained will usually get overtaken by the back end Umas. And these are other acceleration that you could potentially get. For March or Lead the Charge is an acceleration skill exclusive for a dirt track, and you'll be able to get it on the Agnes Digital Power Card, which comes out 2 banners before the Aquarius Cup. This Agnes Digital Power Card does come with the interesting effect where if you have at least 5 different types of support card, she gains 15% training effectiveness. However, the card itself is not that good, so definitely do not pull on this banner, but you could choose to borrow it for some of your Umas if you like. But I don't think they're as necessary on Aquarius Cup as it was on Capricorn Cup because we have angling and scheming available on this track. And if you're running multiple frontrunner or doing a rocket strategy with Silent Shizuka, you can maybe opt into running Mummy Creek's Unique too on your frontrunner, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Highlander is also effective on this track and will give you about similar distance as Ignite Spirit Power. For the Pace Chaser, Taikishoto's unique Shooting for Victory will be effective on this track only for Taikishoto herself. The inherited version of the skill has shorter duration and would not work on other Umas, but similar to Capricorn Cup, give Mummy a hug and heads on, and Ignite Spirit Power will be the main acceleration for Pace Chaser. Unfortunately, compared to other strategy, Pace Chaser does not have many acceleration available for them on the Aquarius Cup other than Taikishoto herself. And other acceleration that you could consider are Highlander, Lead a Charge, Symbol Navigator, or Victoria Planta if you expect there not to be many front runners, but probably not. And if Aquarius Cup ends up becoming a front heavy meta similar to Cancer Cup, then maybe Rest Shift or even less Pump Some Iron could work on your Pace Chaser. But I would suggest you not running Pace Chaser on this Champions meeting. For Late Surger and Encloser, they have similar acceleration available for them. A key acceleration will be less Pump Some Iron. So fighting for the 6th spot will be crucial on this Champions meeting. Furious Feet is also a key acceleration for the Miles CM, and this will be the last time that Ogre Cap Power Card will be used for Furious Feet. The only difference between the Late Surger and Encloser is that the Late Surger has On Your Left while Encloser have straightaway spurt. You can get On Your Left from Nice Nature Wit card. Both Furious Feet and On Your Left have a random activation during the late race. So the key strategy for the Late Surger and Encloser is to hit the less Pump Some Iron and try to do the acceleration crescendo by stacking them with Furious Feet and On Your Left during the final leg. Straightaway spurt is good, but it does have a slight delay in activation compared to angling and scheming and less Pump Some Iron. It also has a very short duration. So usually straightaway spurt alone is not good enough to catch up to the front runners. Highlander is going to be very good for Late Surger and Encloser. So if you have a lot of sparks that you farmed from your Capricorn Cup, you can also use it on Aquarius Cup. And then we have the other source of acceleration listed over here. No Stopping Me, because the last spurt starts 200 meters away from the start of the last corner. Uma will spread out wide after the start of the last corner. So No Stopping Me will not be as effective on this CM. Probably best to rely on these acceleration instead. You can also consider running Give Mummy a Hug or late Rest Shift activation on the Late Surger and Encloser too. Now let's go over the recommended skills. Left-handed and Winter Runner are back in the table as tier 1 green skill as the speed comes back to become the most important stat. On tier 2 we have Firm Condition, which gives 40 or 60 power, and on tier 3 we have other assortment of skills, mainly for groundwork trigger or some leftover points. As for the speed skill, on tier 1, we have the usual miles straightaway, miles corner. Straightaway skill, even though there's a chance for it to get wasted if it triggers during the acceleration phase, they're still very strong on this track to fight for the early position on the initial straight. Ramp Bump or Isan is going to be really strong on this CM, similar to Burgos Cup. However, if you use Track Blazer scenario to remake your Umas for the final, you will no longer have an easy access to Isan unless you run MLB Yaoi no Muteki Power Card. Productive Plant or Mile Maven is going to be one of the best speed skill for Frontrunner and Pace Chaser. Telltale High is one of the best cost-effective skills, along with Playtime is Over and Slipstream. Stand is also going to be very good, mainly for the late surgery and closer. And Unyielding Spirit or Big Sisterly, very effective cheap skill that you can get for a Miles Champions meeting. And on tier 2, we have Shifting Gear, Professor of Curvature, and Risky Business. Risky Business or Nothing Venture is a new speed skill that you can get from this meme card, Sasami Anshinjawa. It drains your stamina for a speed increase. So the skill itself is actually pretty good, but definitely do not run this card just for that skill. And for tier 3, we have the Straightaway Adept, Ignite Spirit Speed, and Top Pick, which is a middle game speed skill specific for dirt track. The major downside for this skill is the high base cost, so usually not worth it to get unless you can get it cheap with lots of hints. On tier 4, we have Homestretch Chase. For the front runner, on tier 1, we have the usual front runner straightaway, front runner corner. Escape Artist is going to be really strong on this track, and Leader's Pride. Dodging Danger, Prudent Positioning, or Ignite Spirit with combo is also going to be effective on this track. For the Pace Chaser, well, on tier 1, we have Pace Chaser straightaway, Pace Chaser corners. On tier 2, we have the Prepare to Pass or Speed Star. Speed Star has a chance to do speed carryover, but also a chance to whip if it procs way too late. For Lay Surger, on tier 1, we have Lay Surger straightaway, Lay Surger corner. On tier 2, we have the Outer Soil, Rising Dragon. And at tier 1.5 million, we have 1.5 million CC or 15 million CC. The 100% of the hill is located in the acceleration zone. Unless you hit all your acceleration and reach your top speed and trigger your 1.5 million CC at the right end of the hill, it won't be effective. Majority of the time, it will just be wasted. For Encloser, on tier 1, we have the Encloser straightaway, Encloser corner, and Daring Strike, which you can get it from Envia Vega Power Card. And on tier 3, we have Masterful Gambit or Storm and Drag. And for the debuff, on tier 0, we have Speed Eater. It's extremely effective skill, and it's the reason why Frontrunner is good on this Miles Champions meeting. And the reason why Triple Front Comp is going to be very strong on this Champions meeting. For tier 1, we have Keen Eye, which also became a debuff skill after the balance adjustment. And we have the usual speed debuff, Hesitant, Encloser, Frontrunner, Pace Chaser, and Lay Surger. Probably Hesitant, Pace Chaser is not going to be as important on this track. And for Encloser, they also have access to Intense Gauge, which is another speed debuff. And on tier 3, I had Opening Gambit on there. It's an acceleration debuff skill for the early race. It's just not a great skill. Now let's go over the recommended Umas. Agnes Digital will be the best dirt Uma and also probably be the easiest Uma for you to build. She comes with aptitude dirt A right out of the box, and running her as late or end or both going to be a very strong strategy on this CF. Her unique is a late game target speed increase unique, and she needs to overtake at least 2 other Umas at the late race. Compared to Oguri Cap's unique, it's less reliable and has less target speed increase. And the reason why she's so good is because she will be the only Umas who have access to Shipper Stand, which is the gold version of Uma Stand, and she also has Lead the Charge built into her kit. So you'll be able to borrow better cards than Agnes Digital. She can also get Mouse Corner randomly from her training event. And if you complete her secret event, you can also get a hint for Unyielding Spirit and Updrafter. Ogre Cap is also going to be one of the strongest units for this Champions meeting. And yes, I'm talking about the OG Ogre Cap, not the Christmas version. Ogre Cap has amazing stat bonuses with 20% on speed and 10% on power. And her aptitude for dirt is B. So it's really easy to convert her to Dirt Uma. And her unique is one of the strongest late game speed skill in the game, like forever, and super reliable. Her major downside is that none of her skills are effective on this Champions meeting. So you will have to rely on support cards and Spirit Explosion for speed skill. You can build her as late or end. Haste could also work, but I will not recommend it. Next, we have Taiki Shuttle. We all know how dominant she was on the last Miles Champions meeting, Virgo Cup. According to Mumukao's Champions meeting data, Taiki Shuttle had the highest pick rate and had the 5th highest win rate on Virgo Cup. Although her unique will be effective for less duration on this Champions meeting when compared to the Virgo Cup, she will still be extremely strong and popular pick. With B aptitude on dirt, it's extremely easy to convert her into Dirt Uma. Her stat bonus is nice with 20% on speed and 10% on width. She also has a scenario link bonus during Unity Cup scenario, and she comes stacked with amazing Miles skills such as Mile Maven, Miles Straightaway, and Changing Gear. And by completing her secret event, she can also get a hit for Head On. Her one major downside is that if there's too many front runners in the lobby, she won't be as effective, as her unique requires her to be between 3rd and 4th position. With smaller roster of available Umas, there might be a good chance that the Aquarius Cup will be more front heavy, even more than Virgo Cup or Cancer Cup. Now let's talk about these 3 front runners Umas: Summer Maruzensky, Smart Pumpkin, and Valentine Mihono Bourbon. They all have strength and weaknesses. In terms of difficulty of building the Umas, Smart Falcons will be the easiest as she comes with Dirt A aptitude right out of the box, then followed by Summer Maruzensky, who has D aptitude for Dirt, so it will be really easy to convert her into Dirt A by running 7 Dirt Spark. Valentine Mihono Bourbon is going to be hardest to work with as she has G aptitude on Dirt and B aptitude on Mild, so you need at least 10 Dirt Spark plus 2 Inheritance Trigger to bring her up to Dirt A, and you also need Mild S on top of that. But in terms of power level, Smart Falcons, if you build them correctly, probably the strongest will be Valentine Mihono Bourbon, followed by Summer Maruzensky and Smart Falcon. Valentine Mihono Bourbon's main upside is that she comes with groundwork built into her kit, so you don't have to rely on Inheritance RNG for that. And she also comes with very strong gold skill, such as Escape Artist and Concentration. She comes with Frontrunner Savvy. She can get guaranteed hint for early lead from her training event. That means she has access to groundwork plus 3 skill necessary to trigger groundwork built right into her kit. Her other downside is that because she can use the Mihono Bourbon Wit card, there's no easy way for her to learn taking the lead. I mean, Twin Turbo is available, but I would really not recommend you to run this card. Just stick with early lead for Valentine Mihono Bourbon. Then we have Summer Maruzensky, who will probably be one of the strongest Uma on the upcoming Aquarius Cup. She has amazing stack bonuses with 15% on speed, 15% on wit. Her unique is extremely strong middle game speed skill, which requires her to run stamina recovery. But as I mentioned on the Capricorn portion of the guide, you can use Mihono Bourbon's unique skill as inherit and use that as a recovery, plus a middle game speed skill. So Summer Maruzensky will become even stronger with the release of Valentine Mihono Bourbon. Both of them work together like a combo. Similar to Taiki Shoto, she comes with Mao Maven built into her kit, and she also has Speed Eater, so she does not have to rely on Hint RNG or Inherit RNG to get this amazing debuff plus target speed increase skill. For some reason, global players seems to be mistakenly think that Summer Maruzensky is no longer viable after the November update. However, that's totally inaccurate. On our last Mouse Champions meeting Virgo Cup, Summer Maruzensky actually had the highest win rate according to Mumucal. Even on Sagittarius Cup, she actually performed the best out of all the frontrunners. If you want, you can even run all 3 of them at the same time as triple front comp with triple Speed Eater. Anyway, all 3 Umas will be extremely strong pick for the Aquarius Cup. And then we have El Condor Fasa. She has amazing stat bonuses with 20% on speed, 10% on wit. Her aptitude for Dirt is B, so it's really easy to convert her to Dirt A. Her unique, if it triggers, is going to be an extremely strong acceleration skill for Aquarius Cup. But her major downside is that her unique requires her to be first or second place. That was okay on champions meeting such as Capricorn Cup, where there won't be many front runners in the lobby, but unfortunately front runner are stronger pick on the Aquarius Cup and will be more widely used on the Aquarius Cup compared to Capricorn Cup. So if you build El Condor Pasa as a page chaser, there's high likelihood that she won't be able to trigger her unique at the start of the last spurt. Since she only needs a couple of Dirt Spark to bring her up to Dirt A, you can try to also build her as a front runner on the CM, but even then, she's going to have extremely hard time contesting against Summer Maruzensky, Smart Falcon, and Valentine Mihono. All 3 of them have a middle game speed unique, and they all have access to strong middle game speed gold skill. For El Condor Pasas comes with a bunch of useless skill for this CM. Unfortunately, I don't think she will be as competitive as the other Umas listed over here. And as for the dark horses or dark Umas, we have Christmas Ogre Cap. Unfortunately, out of the big 3, Christmas Ogre Cap will be the weakest for this upcoming champions meeting. And that's of course because we can't rely on 77777 to proc her unique on the 1600 meter Tokyo race course. So she will have to rely on random middle games recovery for a chance to get a lucky speed carryover unique trigger. There is a build where you can build Christmas Ogre Cap as a front runner and use Moxie as the third here for the unique trigger, about 33 meter into the start of the last spurt. However, is it really worth it? Christmas Ogre Cap has a aptitude F for front, and do you really want to run 3 recoveries on a mild track just for 0.3 acceleration? And she does not even get any speed carryover. I'd rather run other acceleration on an OG Ogre Cap instead. So in my opinion, there is really no reason for you to use Christmas Ogre Cap over OG Ogre Cap. The OG Ogre Cap is better than Christmas Ogre Cap in every way, probably 90% of the time. And then we have Saiyan Sky. Her major benefit is that she can use the base version of Angling and Scheming, which gives her 0.4 acceleration and for longer duration. If Saiyan Sky is able to trigger her unique, she will be an extremely strong pick, but her major downside is that she has G aptitude for Dirt, and her stat bonuses is not as ideal. But of course, she comes with Escape Artist and Tail Held High built into her kit. And her other negative is that it's going to be extremely hard for her to win the angling contest against these 3 Umas. So if you want to go for Saiyan Sky, make sure you build her extremely strong with any middle game speed skill as possible. But having access to this base 0.4 acceleration is super strong, that she will continue to be used even even for the second Aquarius Cup, which happened during the Grand Live scenario. Then we have Festival Gold City. Festival Gold City has D aptitude on dirt, so it's really easy to convert her to dirt A. Her unique is a target speed plus an acceleration, which can trigger on the final corner if she's between 3rd and 6th place and blocked on the side for 2 or more seconds. She'll be another Uma other than Taiki Shuttle that you could potentially run as a pace chaser for the CM. Unfortunately, none of her other skills are useful other than Unyielding Spirit that she can get randomly through her training event, so it's not that reliable. And lastly, we have New Year Haru Urara. If you want to win Champions Meeting with Haru Urara, this will be the best opportunity for you to do so. In terms of power level, she actually deserved to be on the recommended section, probably even over Elkander Pasa. Unlike her OG counterpart, which had a horrible 20% gut growth rate, New Year Haru Urara has much better growth rate with 20% on power and 10% on gut. She comes with Dirt A built right out the box. She has Dirt A aptitude and Mile A aptitude, and her unique is actually usable, speed increase unique, and can be extremely strong combo if you run her with Runaway Suzuka, as her target speed increase has a special scaling based on the distance between her and the first place Uma, so you could last up to 8 seconds if you run her with Runaway Suzuka. Usually speed skill unique has a 5-second duration, but her unique can last up to 3 additional seconds, which will be strong. Now let's go over the recommended team comp. 2 front plus 1 late or end will probably be the strongest team comp. Have both of your front runners run Speed Eater, and hopefully one of them will be able to take lead for angling and scheming. If that plan fails, hopefully your 8 or end closer can still close out the run. While not as strong, I think 1 front plus 2 late and end combo could also work and will be much easier to build. Triple front is also going to be very strong for this CM. Running triple front makes it harder for opponents' Taiki shuttles from proccing their unique. You need to make sure that you're running Speed Eater on all 3 of your front runners, else they're just all fighting for the same win condition. And if none of your front runners ends up getting angling and scheming, you will not have alternate win condition available to you. Similarly to the first team, 2 front and 1 pace team could also work. Pace, what I really mean is Taiki shuttle. And this is the interesting one. You can also run solo ace, Saiyan Sky, and just run double debuffer with intense gaze and hesitant and closer and so on. Basically, you're slowing down opponent's front runners, so you're Saiyan to get her guaranteed base 0.4 acceleration. And then there's the all-in on Haru Urara team comp. Basically, a combination of Runaway Suzuka and New Year Haru Urara. For your third Uma, you can run a debuffer or a second ace. Triple late or end comp can also work. You're basically sending all your Umas to the back line, hoping one of them will trigger less pumps from iron. And 1 front, 1 pace, plus 1 late or end. This is probably my least favorite team comp. You're basically spreading out your Umas to each strategy. These kind of team comp doesn't really bring anything to the table. By bringing more than 1 Uma on a single strategy, you can better control the composition of the room and force the lobby into a room composition that's more benefit to you. But team like this, you'll just be relying on RNG and won't be able to make much impact into the lobby. And there you go. This was Henry Hansom's Double Champions Meeting Guide for Capricorn Cup and Aquarius Cup. Please bear in mind that all these are based on my knowledge, research, and my limited amount of testing that I was able to do on a short period of time. The meta that you see on the actual matches might be slightly different from what I guessed on this video. While I do feel pretty confident about my findings for Capricorn Cup, I definitely need to do more testing for Aquarius Cup. So if I made any mistake or have a new finding, I'll try to provide the edit in the description below. But I hope that this video was able to help you prepare for the last 2 Champions meeting that will happen during the Unity Cup scenario. You can access the table that you see on this video for the stat requirement and the skill recommendation by clicking on the hyperlink on my banner timeline. Now you can use this as a reference when you're confused on which skill to prioritize over the other. I hope you find it useful. Good luck out there. I hope you get double platinum trophy, and I'll see you on the other side. Have a handsome day, everyone. Bye-bye. And I would like to thank my contributors, Kia, Tao, Merkel, Cal the New, Teku, Brian Goldsberry, Burst, Jamin Taylor, Tama, and Groggle, Shady, and B, the rest of the contributor.